بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلوات الله وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد المصطفى وعلى آله ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وما بعد، الدرس الثالث. The third lesson, or lesson 3. Baytun. Al-baytu. House, the house. The word baytun has tanween at the ending. And here the tanween happens to be dhamma. Tanween, whether it's dhamma, kasra, or fatha, depending on the grammatical state of the word, is an indication that the word is indefinite. Baytun means a house. There are 7 ways in the Arabic language to make an indefinite word definite. Number 1, in fact, the primary method of making a word that is indefinite definite is putting what we call adatu ta'rif, the definite article, al, that's the alif and lam, al, like this, al, and the lam will have a sukun, generally speaking, al-baytu. So baytun becomes al-baytu, and you drop the tanween. Another thing that you ought to note here is that they have added in the fatha on top of hamzatul wasl. So what we call alif and lam is really hamza and lam. In fact, there's a lot of technicality behind this, and I will just speedily mention it. If you don't really grasp it, don't bother about it too much. The details of that is forthcoming, inshallah. Is that really it's not alif and lam of ta'rif or hamzatul wasl and lam sakina for ta'rif. It's lam ta'rif. So the lam sakina is adatu ta'rif. But you cannot begin with a sukun in the Arabic language. So we cannot begin pronouncing baytu. So we put the hamza in front, lil-ibtida, just for starting. And that's why we use what is called hamzatul wasli, which is only used when you start, when it is the first sound that comes out of your mouth. That is why we use hamzatul wasli instead of hamzatul qata'. Hamzatul wasl is used to start with, and it's only pronounced if it is the first sound that comes out of your mouth. And if you join it with what is before, you will not pronounce it. For example, if you were to notice when we said ad-darsu thalithu, here the alif, or actually hamzatul wasl in a, we pronounced it. Why? Because it's the first sound that came out of my mouth. Ad-darsu. But this one here, it is not the first sound we're reading through. We're joining ad-darsu with ath-thalithu. So we say ad-darsu thalithu. So this hamzatul wasl is pronounced and this one is not. So really it's lamu ta'arif, but the hamzatul wasl is only there, or is placed there, lil-ibtida, for you to start with. But it became so popular that now if you say lamu ta'arif, people probably wouldn't know what you're talking about. I just wanted you to know. Most people say alif and lam li ta'arif. Adatu ta'arif is the alif and the lam. And we say alif, even though the alif is just a seat for the hamza. So starting back, baytun, al-baytu. Oh, the other thing I want you to note is that that fatha should not be written on the alif or the hamza. It should not be written. They are writing it here in this book, just in the first few examples, for you to know what vowel to pronounce that alif with if you start with it. You say al-baytu. You pronounce the Hamzatul Wasl or the Alif with a Fatha, but it's not written. So don't practice writing that Fatha in. That is just there for you to know how to read it. Baytun al-baytu. Kitabun al-kitabu. Qalamun al-qalamu. Jamalun al-jamalu. Of course, baytun is house, al-baytu, the house, kitabun, book, al-kitabu, the book, qalamun, pen or a pen, al-qalamu, the pen, jamalun, camel, a camel, al-jamalu, the camel. If we were to form a sentence, al-qalamu maksurun, al-qalamu maksurun. The pen is broken. Maksurun means broken. Al-babu maftuhun. Al-babu maftuhun. The door is open. Al-waladu jalisun wal-mudarrisu waqifun. The child is sitting and the teacher is standing. Al-waladu jalisun wal-mudarrisu waqifun. The child is sitting and the teacher is standing. And here we have 10 more examples. I will read them and translate, inshallah. Al-kitabu jadidun wal-qalamu qadimun. Al-kitabu jadidun wal-qalamu qadimun. The book is new and the pen is old. Al-himaru صغير والحصان كبير. الحمار صغير والحصان كبير. الكرسي مكسور. الكرسي مكسور. The chair is broken. المنديل وسخ. المنديل وسخ. The handkerchief is dirty. الماء بارد. الماء بارد. The water is cold. القمر جميل. القمر جميل. The moon is beautiful. البيت قريب والمسجد بعيد. البيت قريب والمسجد بعيد. The house is near and the masjid is far. الحجر ثقيل والورق خفيف. So this is not very clearly written. It is خفيف. Let's see if I can write that in here. خا with a fatha, fa with a kasra, ya with a sukun, and the fa with tanween dhamma. خفيف. الحجر ثقيل والورق خفيف. The stone is heavy and the paper is light. اللبن حار. اللبن حار. The milk is hot. القميص نظيف. القميص نظيف. The shirt is clean. تمارين exercises. اقرأ واكتب مع ضبط أواخر الكلمات. اقرأ واكتب مع ضبط أواخر الكلمات. اقرأ is read. واكتب and write. مع with. ضبط. ضبط means to put in the vowels. أواخر on the endings. الكلمات of the words. So you should read these words and put in the vowels on the ending. And of course, the objective is for you to know whether you put in tanween, two dhamma, or a single dhamma. Masjidun, al-masjidu. Al-ma'u, ma'un. Al-baytu, babun. Qalamun, القلم. الكلب كلب. قميص ولد. الحجر الولد. حمار الحمار. الحصان حصان. Exercise 2. اقرأ واكتب. Read and write. المكتب مكسور. المكتب مكسور. The desk is broken. المدرس جديد. المدرس جديد. The teacher is new. القميص وسخ. القميص وسخ. The shirt is dirty. اللبن بارد. اللبن بارد. المسجد مفتوح. المسجد مفتوح. مفتوح means open. المسجد مفتوح. The masjid is open. الحجر كبير. الحجر كبير. الحجر كبير. The rock is large or big. اللبن بارد والماء حار. اللبن بارد والماء حار. The milk is cold and the water is hot. الإمام جالس والمدرس واقف. الإمام جالس والمدرس واقف. The Imam is sitting. Jalisun means sitting. And the teacher is standing. Waqifun means standing. Al-qamaru ba'idun. Al-qamaru ba'idun. The moon is far. Al-mindilu nadhifun. Al-mindilu nadhifun. The handkerchief is clean. Exercise 3. Imla il-faragha. Imla il-faragha. Let me explain this. This word is imla, which means to fill. Imla, there should be a fatha on the lam, and that hamza is written on top of this alif here. Imla, which means to fill. Al-faragha, the space. But then what happens is that we end up with a sukoon on the hamza, which is the last letter of the word imla, and a sukoon on the lam, which is the first pronounced letter of the word al-faragh. So we have two sukoons meeting. This is a case that is called iltiqa'u sakinaini, the meeting of two sukoons. This is not allowed in the Arabic language. So you have to do something. And what is done is we put a haraka, a vowel, on the first letter with sukoon, which happens to be the hamza here. So really that sukoon should not be written there. And we say imla il. We put a kasra on the hamza. So that's why you wouldn't hear me saying imla al-faragha. If you do that, you're making a huge mistake in making hamzatul wasl, hamzatul qata', and that is not allowed in the Arabic language. So the proper classical way to read these two words combined is imla il-faragha. So I'll repeat that. Imla il-faragha fima yali بوضع الكلمة المناسبة من الكلمات التالية. املأ الفراغ فيما يلي بوضع الكلمة المناسبة من الكلمات التالية. Fill the blank, الفراغ, blank or space. فيما يلي, in what follows, in the following. So the way we'll actually translate that in proper English, fill the following spaces. بوضع الكلمات المناسبة, by placing the suitable word or a suitable word من الكلمات التالية, from the following words. So here we have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. And we have 6 sentences, each of them having a blank at the ending. So you fill the blank with one of those words. Al-hajaru, al-hajaru, thaqilun. The stone or the rock is heavy. Al-babu, maftuhun. The door is open. Al-qamaru jamilun. Al-qamaru jamilun. The moon is beautiful. Al-waraqu, al-waraqu khafifun. The paper is light. Al-mindilu wasikhun. Al-mindilu wasikhun. The handkerchief is dirty. Al-labanu harrun. Al-labanu حار. The milk is hot. Exercise 4. املأ الفراغ فيما يلي بوضع كلمة مناسبة. Fill the blank in what follows by placing a suitable word. مناسبة means suitable and كلمة word. املأ الفراغ فيما يلي بوضع كلمة مناسبة. Fill the following blanks by placing a suitable word. القميص نظيف. القلم مكسور. الماء بارد. المسجد قريب. البيت بعيد. المدرس واقف. الإمام جالس. الحجر كبير. البيت قديم. The house is old. المسجد جديد. الكلمات الجديدة new vocabulary. القمر the moon. جديد new. قديم old. وسخ dirty. نظيف clean. حار hot. بارد cold. صغير small. كبير big. مفتوح open. مكسور broken. ثقيل heavy. خفيف light. جميل beautiful. واقف standing. جالس sitting. نجم النجم. نجم النجم. Star the star. Note the difference that in the previous words, when we add alif and lam, we would put a sukoon on the lam. In all of the words that preceded, except one, I think that was an oversight from the author. Here, baytun al-baytu, we pronounce the lam. Kitabun al-kitabu, we pronounce the lam. Qalamun al-qalamu, we pronounce the lam. Jamalun al-jamalu, we pronounce the lam. And in all the cases we did so. Also, there's a slight subtlety that in the word labanun, which is included in this list here, in the first list, labanun, the lam is not pronounced. This is a technicality. See, let me show you that here. Al-labanu. See, we're not putting a sukoon on lamu ta'rif, this one here. We're putting a shadda on the second lam. So the lam that you're hearing when we say al is not the first. It's the second being repeated twice because of the shadda on it. So that's a little technicality, but we let it slide. Now we come to a different group of words or letters, words that begin with a group of letters. And we will see the two groupings or categorizations shortly, inshallah. Najmun, najmun. When we put alif and lam on that, we do not pronounce the lam. We do not say al-najim. We say an-najim. And instead, we put a shaddah on the first letter of the word, which is the noon, and we do not pronounce the lam. An-najim. So there are two groups of letters. The Arabic language has 28 letters. 14 of them, if words start with those letters, they are called hurufun qamariyatun, moon letters. You pronounce the lam, you put a sukun on the lam and you pronounce it. And the other group of 14 letters, you do not pronounce the lam. It's written, but it's not pronounced. You put a shaddah on that letter and you pronounce it twice. Najimun an-najimu. Rajulun ar-rajulu. Rajulun ar-rajulu. Deekun ad-deeku. Deekun ad-deeku. Najmun is star, we learned it before. Rajulun, man. Deekun, rooster. Talibun, talibun. At-talibu, at-talibu. Making sentences with these words. An-najmu ba'idun. An-najmu ba'idun. The star is far. Ar-rajulu waqifun. Ar-rajulu waqifun. The man is standing. As-sukkaru hulwun. As-sukkaru hulwun. The sugar is sweet. At-talibu maridun. At-talibu maridun. The student is sick. Ad-diku jamilun. Ad-diku jamilun. The rooster is beautiful. Ad-daftaru jadidun. Ad-daftaru jadidun. Ad-daftaru is the notebook. Jadidun is new. At-tajiru ghaniyun. At-tajiru ghaniyun. The businessman or the merchant is wealthy or rich. Ad-dukkanu maftuhun. Ad-dukkanu maftuhun. The shop is open. Ad-dukkan means the shop. Maftuhun is open. Al-waladu faqirun. Al-waladu faqirun. The child is poor. At-tuffahu ladhidhun. At-tuffahu ladhidhun. At-tuffahu, the apple. Ladhidhun, delicious. The apple is delicious. At-tabibu tawilun wal-maridu qasirun. At-tabibu tawilun wal-maridu qasirun. The doctor is tall and the patient, al-maridu, means the sick person, the patient. Qasirun is short. Tamarin, exercises. Iqra waktub ma'a dhabti awakhiril kalimati. Iqra waktub ma'a dhabti awakhiril kalimati. read and write with or while placing the vowels on the ending of the words. الباب التاجر النجم القمر الديك الماء. I think it would make sense also for you to not only place the vowels at the ending of the words, but also on the first letter of the word itself before the alif and lam, or after the alif and lam when you add on alif and lam, so that you know whether the lam is being pronounced or not. So for example, in al-babu, you will put a sukun on the lam. In a tajiru, you will not put a sukun on the lam, rather you will put a shadda on the ta and a fatha on it. So I would say put in all vowels for now. As-sariru, as-sariru, al-baytu, al-masjidu, ar-rajulu, ar-rajulu, as-sukkaru, as-sukkaru, al-waraqu, al-waraqu. املأ الفراغ فيما يلي بوضع كلمة مناسبة. Fill the following blanks by placing a suitable word. التاجر غني. السكر حلو. الطالب مريض. التفاح لذيذ. الطبيب طويل. المريض قصير. اختر كلمة من القائمة با تناسب الكلمة التي في القائمة همزة. اختر means choose. كلمة a word. من from القائمة با column B or با تناسب that suits الكلمة the word التي which في in القائمة همزة that suits the word that is in the column hamza or column hamza. الطالب مريض. الدكان مفتوح. التفاح لذيذ. الماء حار. الحجر ثقيل. القلم مكسور. الكلمات الجديدة new vocabulary. حلو sweet. مريض sick. الدكان the shop. غني and you have to put a shadda on that yeah. غني rich or wealthy. طويل tall. فقير poor. قصير short. التفاح the apple. Now we come to the primary objective of lesson 3. الحروف القمرية, there should be a kasra on this ra instead of a fatha. والحروف الشمسية, the moon letters. القمرية means the moon letters. الحروف الشمسية and the sun letters. What do we mean by that? We mean that if a word begins with the letter Hamza, because it is a moon letter, when you add the alif and lam to that word, you will pronounce the lam, you will put a sukun on the lam, and you will pronounce it. But ta, which is a sun letter, it's in the list of al-huruf al-shamsiyatu. When a word begins with it, for example, tajirun, when we add the alif and lam, we do not pronounce the lam. Rather, we put a shadda on the ta, and we pronounce that twice. At-tajiru. Just like that, for the rest of al-huruf al-qamariyatu, the ba and jim and ha and kha and ayn and ghayn and fa and qaf and kaf and mim and waw and ha and ya, we pronounce the lam when words begin with those letters, and we add alif and lam to those words, we pronounce the lam. Whereas ta and tha and dal and zal and ra and zai and sin and sheen and sad and dad and ta and dha and lam and noon, we do not pronounce the lam when words begin with these letters, and we add alif and lam to those words. We do not pronounce the lam. Rather, we put a shadda on that letter. Let's go ahead and read these lists. Al-abu, at-tajiru, al-babu, al-thawbu, al-jannatu, ad-diku, al-himaru, al-dhahabu. And just to remind you of the meanings of those words, just in case, al-abu means the father, at-tajiru, the merchant, the businessman, al-babu, the door, al-thawbu, the piece of clothing, al-jannatu, the garden, ad-diku, the rooster, al-himaru, the donkey, al-dhahabu, the gold, al-khubzu, the bread, al-rajulu, the man, al-ainu, the eye, az-zahratu, az-zahratu, the flower, al-ghada'u, the lunch, as-samaku, the fish, al-famu, the mouth, ash-shamsu, the sun, al-qamaru, the moon, as-sadiru, the chest, al-kalbu, the dog, ad-daifu, the guest, al-ma'u, the water, at-talibu, the student, al-waladu, the child, az-zahru, the back, al-hawa'u, air, al-lahmu, the meat, al-yadu, the hand, an-najmu, the star. Now here we have a list of 14 moon letters and 14 sun letters. The Arabic language has 28 letters in all, so it's divided equally. 14 are sun letters and 14 are moon letters. This is quite a coincidence. Maybe it's not. Perhaps it's by design of Rabbul Alameen. How do you memorize this list? Now, if you know the alphabet based on the order that we mentioned it in contemporary days, Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, Jim, Ha, Kha, Dal, Dhal, until Ya, if you've memorized that order, then you memorize al-huruf al-shamsiyatu by taking the ta and the tha, and then from dal all the way down to dha. So from Dal to Dha are 10 letters. And then 2 before, that's the Ta and Tha. And then 2 after Lam and Noon. And the rest are Qamariya. تمرين اقرأ الكلمات الآتية واكتبها مراعيا قواعد نطق الحروف القمرية والشمسية. اقرأ, read, الكلمات, the words, الآتية, the following, read the following words, واكتبها, and write them, مراعيا, paying attention to, قواعد, the rules, نطق, pronunciation, الحروف القمرية, of the moon letters, والشمسية, and the sun letters. So read the following words, read and write the following words, paying attention to the rules for pronouncing the moon and sun letters. البيت, الديك, المدرس, الباب, الطالب, السكر, الدفتر, الأخ. Now this is a new word introduced here, the brother. الرسول, the messenger, and everyone knows that. الوجه, the face. الصديق, the friend. القرآن, the Quran. الصلاة, the prayer. الكعبة, the Kaaba. The word al-Kaaba literally means the cube, but of course what is intended here is the Kaaba in Mecca. Al-Ra'su, the head. Al-Isba'u, the finger. As-Sabunu, the soap. Al-Dhufru, the nail, fingernail or toenail. Al-Fajru, the dawn. Al-Dhuhru, the noon. Al-Asru, the late afternoon. Al-Maghribu, the sunset. Al-Isha'u, the early night.